Hi, I'm Linda. Glad to have you back. I just finished up this morning a really pretty little morning sunrise with a nice bright yellow and orange, red, little reds in there, skies. Put some black trees in there. Got a little field going on with the fog still there in the background. I've got some background work that I had done first, and I'll explain that when we get started here. It's really pretty easy, so I hope you can follow me. Pause and paint, so let's get started. And here are the paints I used: acrylic white, black, sap green, oils for white, black, phthalo blue, Van Dyke brown, burnt sienna, red, orange, yellow ochre, cad yellow, pale hue. Okay, I'm going to show you my underpainting before we get started and explain how I did this. I've done it all in acrylic. And the first thing I did was cut myself out a perfect little circle with contact paper. And I just matched it up with something about the right size. You can go a little smaller if you want, or if you get brave, you can do your finger in the middle. But I wanted to have an exact circle, so I cut a piece out of the contact paper and took the back off and stuck the contact paper right on a dry canvas, totally dry. A little below a halfway mark, maybe over about 5.5 inches, not quite in the center. And anyway, I have that stuck there. So that was before I got going here. So now the next step after you get that on, I took some gray, black with a little bit of white, acrylic, and I made a real light gray. And I just took a little fan brush and just kind of did some indentations of some background clouds. And now, mind you, I'm going over the top of this circle, so it's gonna, when I pull that off, it's gonna show right where I went. So that's kind of what I want. But I did the background, mountains and bushes, in a little bit of the light gray first, and just kind of circular, flicking up. And in some areas, I took a little darker black, and I would just kind of lift it up, and tapped it, did some little bushies, and did the corner of the moon there, and just kept going kind of in a straight line here a little bit, and just tapped it in, get all that in. I took my liner and dipped it in some black, and I did some really fine little branches, just kind of all over where I want little trees. Just rolled it in black. It's got to be real thin, so it gets you want a nice, sharp little branches. And then after that, you can take a round brush, tap it in some black, and you just carefully dot over these little trees that you did. Make some bushes, and I'm working my way down. But up here, I also took a sap green, acrylic sap green, and just very lightly, just dipped it in a little water, maybe, and got it wet on the end, and dipped the green in some white, maybe a touch of black, just kind of made a real light, very light green, just to indicate some greenery way in the back side like that. And just push in some of your green. And then after that, I got a clean fan brush, dipped it in some black, a little bit of white. I wanted a medium gray to dark gray, and just wanted to do, this is the end of, I believe it's a cornfield. I'm just going to do a line with a dark right here. Be way below there's the halfway mark, and then the halfway mark from the bottom. I'm just going to do a little field down here. So I'm just kind of making some indentations here of rows. And I even took my fan brush, dipped it in a little black, and just just made my little rows here. Just kind of squigglies. And a little darker, going a little darker as you come down to the front. Darker. And here I took my fan brush, dipped it in a little black and white, making it a dark, dark gray. And I'm just flicking up. I'm just doing little tiny little rows. Just indications of some rows here. I'm going to make them going diagonal where this is going across. Just doing that all the way down until, and then at the very bottom, I'm going to have it quite dark. So I kind of mashed my fan brush down here just to kind of in a little bit in the rows to darken the front. So I just wanted to explain this underpainting here before I start to go to the next step. I just let this totally dry, and then I pulled off my little contact paper, my moon. Everything is totally dry. So then on to the next step. So now I'm taking liquid clear, and I'm going to put a thin, even coat, not real heavy, all over, starting at the top, brushing little X strokes, so just straight across. Try and get it as even as you can. Because after a bit here, I'm going to take my blue shop towel and just wipe off a little bit of that excess oil. You don't want too much, otherwise the paint tends to run. You just go all the way down. So now I'm using my shop towel and just gently going back and forth, taking a little bit of that excess oil off. So now I'm going into the cad yellow, with a little touch of white. And I'm going to start putting in some of that bright sunshine way at the top. Working my way down, X strokes. Not going all the way to the edges. Just want to get that center area really nice and bright yellow. Blending it in nicely, working my way down. Keeping it pretty yellow right above that sunrise there. Just going to go right over the top of that. I'm not going to clean my brush. I'm just dabbing off some of the excess yellow there. I'm going to go into a little bit of the orange mixed with a little yellow. And I'll start at the top right corner there, go all the way up. Just brushing across. Keeping my strokes fairly straight. Dabbing in the excess paint off my brush again. Gonna go into a little bit of the orange. Off to the right, that's gonna be the brightest spot there for orange. So I'm just working my way up. It gets lighter as I work my way up. I don't want to totally cover that sunlight though with the orange. I want to leave quite a bit of that open. And just work in that paint, dabbing a little extra off, and just going straight up. Blending the yellows. Same with the other side, I'm just blending in that orange. If I have a little too much, I take a shop towel and just rub a little bit off. And then just blend with a nice dry brush. And you can keep adding the orange as much as you want. Putting a little more there on the right above there. Getting a nice reflection there in the sky. Keeping my lines fairly straight. Putting a little bit of orange on the top. Just blending it in. Putting some more orange streaks in there. You can put as many as you want. Now I'm dipping in a little bit of red and a little bit of orange, and I'm just going to brush it lightly below some of those yellow areas, just to give it some depth, bright, light and dark, just here and there. Just keep on blending it. So now I'm going into a little bit of yellow and a little more white than usual. I want to start refining, putting some really light clouds in there, way on the top, and brightening that center area up. I'm using a fan brush and I'm just kind of scrubbing some in there, some lighter clouds. Because I want that center area really as bright as I can get it. If you think you have too much yellow, take a shop towel and just gently rub over that area, and you can add some more white. I'm pushing up with my fan brush. Yeah, I hope you saved that little piece, the plain paper off of that sun with the contact paper. We're going to use that paper cutout here in just a few minutes. So don't throw that little piece away. Now I'm putting some yellow right across, yellow and white, right on the top of that sunrise there. Adding a little more white, trying to really make that pop. And then blending it. Now I'm going to make a little bit of a blue wash. And that is made with a little bit of phthalo blue, tiny bit of black, and maybe a little bit of brown. And then I dip my brush into a little thinner. So it's more of a wash. So I take that brush and see I'm going to wipe off the excess oil paint off of there. I'm just going to dab it a little bit because I just want a really light area there above that hill. And I don't want it real blue because you don't want to get the green started there next to that yellow, but it will turn out nicely. Just putting in some darker clouds, kind of envision behind those hills. Just a really light blue wash, I guess. It's just ever so light. And if you have too much, take your shop towel and just dab over the top of that, and it'll lighten up. Same on the other side. I'm just doing some little darker clouds, blue sky poking through there. Just ever so lightly. Putting a little more on top there on the right, and more there on the top of that hill. I'm going to be adding some fog here shortly, foggy area. Meantime, I am still adding a little more blue here and there. Some of that blue sky is poking through. I'm using a little filbert there. It's very soft brush. Just ever so lightly. And on the other side, just kind of balance things off a little bit with the darker sky. So now I've got a round brush. I am tapping into titanium white. Don't want a lot on there, so I'm going to tap a lot of that off on a paper towel. And I'm just going to start tapping. It's a lot like making splashes in the water when you're doing water. But we're trying to get the foggy look. So if you tap, the more you tap, the lighter it'll get. And after each, maybe after a few taps, clean your brush off a little bit on the towel so you're not picking up some of that blue or black. Just keep tapping and you'll get that foggy effect. I'm working my way down, just tapping that white in there, and after a while I'm going to take my shop rag because I know exactly where my bushes are, and I'm going to just run my finger over shop rag and it'll expose some of those bushes like that. You'll see the bushes coming to the front now, because the more you brush it, the white will disappear in there. And if you're not satisfied, keep putting the white on, which I am putting a little more fog at the base of that. There, see, now I'm taking a shop rag, I'm exposing some of those acrylic bushes that we put in there first. Just rub your finger over that and the bushes will appear. So now I'm going to go in and use that little round piece of plain, the duct tape on the paper side. I'm going to place that right over the sunrise and hold it with my finger and tap in very lightly some tree tops that's going to be right behind there. It'll look really neat, and the shape of the sun will appear better. Just tapping in on the side there, some darker bushes, and on the very top where the trees will come over that sunrise. And this method will work if you don't move the paper. kind of hard to put duct tape on top of the oil paint, so that's why I'm using the paper side, just holding it. And I'm just putting in some more treetops way in the back. Ever so light though, very light. And now you'll see I did put a tree there. But before I put my other trees alongside of that, I'm taking my round brush, dipping it in a little bit of yellow and orange, tapping a lot of it off. I just want a very subtle sunlight on the trees back there, way in the back row. I'm just going to tap lightly on top of some of those trees because the light reflection will be hitting those. Just here and there. Make sure to put them in before I put the trees that'll be in front of them. A little more orange and yellow. And just tapping lightly. Put a little color in there, in the background there. And I'm even putting a little bit of the yellow reflection in between the rows, just a little bit, because that is a really bright sunlight there, and you're going to have some kind of reflection going on. Okay, so now I've dipped in the black, straight black, with a little bit of thinner. I want it thinner black, and then I've got a liner brush that I'm making some tall branches just above that horizon line. They're going to come up. So I want them nice and sharp. Don't want heavy branches back there because they are in the distance. And just add as many of the branches as you want. It's going to be quite full actually. I'll be tapping in some leaves after I get the third one in. There we go, I've got the third tree going on in there, lots of branches. Just reaching out with those branches, those limbs. It's going to be a fairly full trees there. And as long as I'm at it, I'm going to put some little bushes along that back row there. Just here and there, little bushes, little branches. And I'll go on the other side, put a few over there. Some lower ones, sticks coming out of the fog. And there we go, I've got a round brush now. I'm going to start putting in my leaves. Tapping very, very lightly. I don't want a real heavy bunch of leaves on that. I want it just very light, just above the horizon there. And I'll be working my way down, just carefully shaping those trees. I want most of that sunrise to show through there. So I don't want to cover that up totally. But just take your time and just tap real light. Get the shapes that you want. And going down and putting some leaves on those other little trees. Just very light taps. And if you think you have too much paint, just tap it on a paper towel and it should be just right. I'm going along with some with a little liner brush there, and I'm just flicking up. I'm putting some little stalks, little grassies. I'm even adding a little brown in there, Van Dyke brown between the rows, and putting in a little bit of color in there. I almost see a finished painting here. Boy, I really love doing this one. It didn't take very long at all. So I hope you liked this one as much as I did. So until next time, happy painting and God bless.